2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right. Okay, ready, Shreddies? You all look alive and awake and Monday morning excited, or maybe not so excited. Not so excited. Okay. So, there we go. Okay, good morning, people. Official good morning. We're live streaming now, so just in case you're kind of new to the class, of course, I'm live streaming this at the same time as I'm talking, so sometimes I'll be talking to my computer. I have not lost my mind. I'm just doing two things at the same time. Actually, I may have lost my mind already, but still, that's not the reason why I'm talking to this. So Vicky's with us this morning, I think, which is great, and hopefully some more people will sign in shortly. I know a couple people weren't sure if they were feeling well this morning, so they just stayed home, which is what you should do. If you feel you might be getting sick, do the online class. Don't come in until you know if you're sick or not. Anyway, right. So on Monday, I'm just going to switch to this. Here we go. So, oh shoot, now I can't see what. Right, whoops. So on Monday we were talking a little bit about, is it okay? On Friday, sorry, you're right. On Friday we were talking about a few things that are complicated. We were talking about critical theory, and again, that's a complicated aspect of academia to explore, but the good news is we're not going to dig into it too deeply. We're just going to borrow a few things off the top and use them to inform our class here. So a couple things that we wanted to remember is the idea that one, sometimes acquiring new information is counterintuitive. It's different from what we think should happen, and sometimes reality is a little bit different from the way we actually perceive it. And part of that we said had to do with the idea of positionality, the idea that we all experience the world slightly differently depending on who we are, right? And so we said that if you're walking down the street in any city in the body of a man or the body of a woman, then society is going to treat you a little bit differently, and so you're going to experience the world a little bit differently. And so because of that, sometimes reality is not quite what we think it is. And the other thing is that we want to understand the meanings that are given to information. And so often in school and often in academics, the sort of prevailing idea is that knowledge is just knowledge, right? It's unbiased, it's objective, it has no coloring, it's just facts are just facts, right? But that's not entirely true. The way in which we know things, the sort of stories and values that are attached to them, all of those are reflective of kind of the social and political environment that you live in, okay? And so to try to illustrate that, I don't know if I did a good job of illustrating it or not, but to try and illustrate that, we talked about this guy here, right? Christopher Columbus, who objectively is a explorer that encountered North and South America and kind of informed Europe that this entire continent was here. Those are kind of very basic facts, but there's a story about Christopher Columbus, right? And there's kind of a conception we have of him and what his voyage actually meant. But I tried to convince you on Friday, that that the story of Columbus is not entirely unbiased, right? We have sort of woven into that story are ideas about him being sort of a brave, noble explorer, him being a discoverer of a new world, and him being kind of a hero, right? To the point that he is worshipped is a strong word, but he's kind of worshipped as a hero. There are statues to Columbus. He has a holiday, right? But the question is that really who he is? And is that really what that voyage meant? We also connected it to the idea that the world was round, and sometimes worked into this story of Columbus is the proving that the world was round. But from a different perspective, that's not exactly what the story is, right? So we said that, we said that the way you view Columbus and what you think he is and what you think he did is very reflective of who you are. It's very reflective of your positionality. And so for someone in the United States, for instance, they may actually see Columbus as the hero, the explorer, the founding father, the person who discovered this new world in which they built their glorious country of the United States. And again, that's one version of the story, or that's the story from one perspective. And in some ways, it's not entirely a false narrative. It's not a false story. But from another perspective, that's actually not the entire story, right? The entire story, of course, is that Columbus was actually not, he was certainly brave, but he was not a good guy. He's not very heroic. If you look back in historical records, you'll probably find that he was pretty awful, and pretty awful even by standards of 1500 AD. And so one of the first colonies that he's an administrator of, there's reports of, selling people into sexual slavery and torture and executions, and he's a bad guy all around. And of course, his arrival here in North and South America is the first event in a long series of awful things that happened to indigenous people both in North America and South America. And so for an indigenous person looking at Christopher Columbus, he is not a hero, right? He's an awful person, or, even at the best interpretation, he is the person who bumps into the continent that is their home and then sets in motion an Atlantic slave trade, colonization, genocide, all kinds of ugly things that will happen to them. And so, again, neither of those stories is entirely right or entirely wrong. They're two stories told from a different perspective. And the question is that which story do we know? Which story are we taught, and why? Right? And so here in North America, it shouldn't be much of a surprise to you that the version that most children are taught, or at least up until a few years ago, the story that they were taught was the brave explorer and the founding father, because that fits into the story that countries like Canada and the US want to tell about themselves, right? We want to, here in Canada, for instance, we want to see ourselves as, this great country that was built from nothing, and, people came over here and struggled really hard, and they had to deal with the harsh climate and the cold winters and bears, but they did it, and they created this wonderful country. And that's kind of the story of Canada in a little nutshell. And again, it's not entirely a false story, but it also ignores all kinds of horrible things that have happened to indigenous people, and this was their home, right? This was their home before Europeans came here. And so that story that I just told you is not false, but it's really true from a particular point of view. And that point of view is spread around because it is white Europeans who are in power in Canada, not Indigenous people. If Indigenous people were in power here in Canada, that's not how we would know Christopher Columbus. We would know him for a different reason, and we would know him from a different perspective, okay? So again, what I was trying to show you is that the knowledge and the story of Columbus is not purely objective. The reason that we know it and the reason we know it, the way that we know it, it has to do with who is in power, whose interests are served by this story, okay? Right, so sorry, I said that already. Oh yeah. And the other part of this story was the idea of the round earth, right? And so some people weave into this story the idea that Columbus proves the world is round because he tries to sail to India and he bumps into North America, which, if you think of it, doesn't necessarily prove that the world is round. It just proves that there's something beyond Europe. But again, this story is centered in a more broader idea of science and technology coming from the West, right? So Europe, North America, Western European culture, this is the source of knowledge and science and progress, right? That's the story that is trying to be told. But again, that's not entirely true either. And if you look at a number of different civilizations prior to like Renaissance Europe, you'll see that they already believed that the world was round before the Europeans. The Europeans figured it out later, right? But again, we tell the story in such a way that reinforces the idea that knowledge comes from the West, right? And that's just not true either. Okay. So sometimes we have to ask ourselves when we come across new information, when we come across knowledge, the question is not only, is it factual, is it true, is it accurate, but also, if we believe this, who is empowered by it? Okay, so who gains or maintains power from believing this idea, and whose lives are limited by it, right? Whose interests are not served by believing the story. And so for the Columbus story, for instance, it's indigenous people that are delegitimized, right? Their voice, their story, their perspective is not part of that Columbus narrative. And so it allows people to continue to ignore what happened to them because it's not really part of the story, right? Okay, let's see. I'm just going to jump through this really quickly because we talked about it and go on to this. So we started this on Friday. We didn't get to finish it, but it's a critically important skill. Critically important skill for us to learn, right? And so what I said was that critical thinking was about examining our beliefs and trying to determine whether we should actually believe them. And this is increasingly becoming important in the world that we live in because it's becoming more complicated. We're being buried under information daily. Like I can't even keep up with my Twitter feed, and I don't even follow that many people. We're being buried in information, right? And so we need some tools to sort through it and figure out what to believe and what not to. And those things are important because the things that we believe inform the choices that we make, and the choices that we make inform our lives, right? And what our lives turn out to be. And so I think we need to know how to do this. And I think increasingly we're seeing, particularly in the United States, but also in Canada, people are really bad at this. They're having a lot of trouble thinking critically, and they wind up believing things that are difficult to believe if you do any critical thinking at all, okay? So critical thinking asks us not what we believe, but whether we actually should believe that thing. Is it worth believing? Do we have good reasons for believing those things? And so, I said that we could only really think critically about things when somebody made a claim, right? So when they said something was or wasn't true, or when they said something is or isn't the case, something like that, right? We can't think critically about questions, right? We can't, is there a God? Great question, but you can't really think critically about it. You can only think critically about when somebody makes a claim. There is a God, or there is no God, or we'll never be able to know. But either way, you have to make a claim, okay? So claims are, sorry, I'm jumping through this really quickly. Let me go back. Claims are statements, right? They say something is or is not the case. And when we put those statements together, we can create arguments. Not fighting arguments, but arguments that suggest something is or isn't the case, and then gives you reasons or evidence to believe those things, okay? So it's simple, but we're gonna practice it, okay? And like I said on Friday, I think this is an essential skill wherever you wind up in life, whether you wind up, you know, in whatever career you wind up in, this is an important thing to be able to do, okay? Again, even if you're just asking your boss for a raise, you can't just ask for it. You need to give your boss reasons that you should be paid more. And the better your argument is, the more difficult it's going to be for your boss to say no, right? So I'm just trying to make you more money here, right? I just want you to be paid more. That's my goal here. All right, so this is what an argument is, and we'll be, maybe in about 10 or 15 minutes, I'm gonna get you to build your own arguments, and we'll see how we do, okay? So an argument is a collection of statements, and they work together to hopefully convince people of one thing or another, okay? So argument is built of a conclusion. That's the thing that someone wants you to believe. That's the thesis statement, or the main point. And then there are premises. And so a premise is kind of an idea. Hey, James. A premise is kind of an idea that, or a piece of evidence that supports your conclusion, okay? And so when we put a conclusion with some premises together and they fit logically, we'll talk about that in a minute. When they fit logically, then we know we have an argument, and then we can kind of evaluate it and see whether we want to believe it or not. Cool so far? Cool? Okay. Here we go. Here's my argument for you. If you've been in my class before, you'll know this argument already, but that's okay. It still works. So, this is my argument to all of you. This is just an imaginary argument. I don't believe this, but I think, Nav? Oh, wristbands? Okay, come on in.
I'd like some coffee too.
Would you?
No, the one.
Oh, that one, yeah. I don't think you should drink this, COVID.
So, just
Plus,
a
I'm
quick
not
question.
sharing.
Any one of you who were in the morning class, 8 to 10 a.m. and did not get one? Who of you guys do not have one of these? Okay, I see you. Okay.
You can be part of our cool blue band club. Avira's looking at this. What is... Nav, what are these bands for?
Oh, no, I was going to get to that while
Oh, I see, okay.
No, I didn't forget.
Okay.
Do you have one? Okay. So, what's your last name? Yeah. This one?
If you're online, we're just handing out wristbands at the moment, so just hang tight. We'll be right back to you.
Who else? You as well? Last name, please, sir? I don't have it. It's okay. You can just give me your ID number. And what's your English name? Oh.
That's okay.
You get one? You got one already? Can I see it? Okay. Your last name, sir? T-I? Okay. Go.
No problem. Good morning.
Are you sure? Yes. Okay. And your ID? 808? Yeah. Anyone else? Mike has one.
I have one.
You last name is? Eight? Oh, S. There you go. Thank you. It's not here yet, but we'll add it. I just don't know how to say it. I'm almost there. I'll explain. Do you have one item? Last name? There you go. Okay, so for those who are clueless about what this is, it's a blue wristband, as you can clearly see. And while you guys are on campus, you need to be wearing it at all times. This is a way for us to recognize that you guys are high school students and you're supposed to be on campus. If you don't have it, you will not be allowed on campus. If you lose it, there might be a fee that you guys might have to pay to get another one. If you forgot it at home, you need to either let Deborah or myself know, and we will try to figure something out for you guys. You guys need to, I don't know if I've said it already, but if I haven't, you need to wear it at all times while you guys are on campus. Okay? It doesn't matter which hand you're wearing it, as long as we can see it. Any questions?
So if you forget it, there's no way into the building, or you have to sign in, or what do you have to do?
If you forget it, you need to let me or Deborah know, and we'll try to find something for you guys to come in, so we can vouch for you at the security, for example. If you actually forgot it, because we can't do that every day, every morning, you will have to get a new one, and there might be a fee for it.
How much is that?
We'll let you know if you forget, if you lose it.
$100.
I wish, and then I'll take half of it into my pocket.
Why do you still need it? I mean, like, why you need it coming to campus?
I'm sorry?
Why do we need it coming to campus?
So that we know that you're supposed to be here, because we might have students, UT students, who might try to come in to use, let's say, a computer lab or something, right? So just to make sure that you guys are supposed to be here and restricting yourself to your cohort.
Yeah, and maybe more, and maybe just to keep people who aren't supposed to be on our floor out,
Yes.
because we want to we want to stay in our little bubble here. We don't want random people coming in, right? So it's not so much your access. It's to keep the other people out and to let us in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. Can I see yours?
I need to work.
That's what I thought. What's your last name?
Link.
Zian? I said it correctly. There you go. Mine? I don't need one. Everyone knows me. I'm special. See, even Mike has to wear one.
Even I have to wear one. Not that special.
You want it closed?
Huh?
You want it closed?
No, open.
Alright, thank you.
Airflow is good. You're welcome, Nav. Okay. Any questions about the wristband thing? Just wear it. Just wear it. Okay. So we were talking about critical thinking, and we were talking about creating arguments, and I said that that was going to be important for you in your lives, I hope. It's also pretty useful in terms of school, because if you're writing something, it's always very useful to have an argument behind your writing, because it will focus your writing, it'll help you know what things you should include and what things you shouldn't. And again, it focuses it. It gives that writing a purpose and a main thing it's trying to communicate. So I think this is useful in all kinds of different ways, okay? So here's an argument that I'm going to present to you. It's very simple. I don't believe it, but it's just for an example. Here's my conclusion, okay? This is my conclusion. My conclusion is that I think all of you students here should drink coffee. That's my argument, okay? Now, as good critical thinkers, you should ask me why, right? Why should I drink coffee? What are you talking about, Mike? Convince me, right? That's what you should be thinking. And so I'll say, okay, I'll give you three reasons. You all should drink coffee, it's my conclusion, because it is delicious, it is inexpensive, and it will stimulate your brain and help you study and get better grades. Okay, those are my I have three premises to my argument. Okay, so let me see what my next slide is here. Right, simple argument. You all should drink coffee. Good critical thinkers should say, why should I believe that, Mike? Give me some evidence, and I'll say, well, it's delicious, it's inexpensive, and it will stimulate your brain, help you study, and get better grades, okay? So I've given you an argument, and we need to evaluate it, okay? We need to take a step to figure out if this is a good argument and if we should even entertain it, right? If you should even think about believing this, okay? So the first thing that we want to do is make sure that the premises logically support the conclusion, okay? So in this case, what am I asking you to believe? You should drink coffee. Okay, so I need to provide you with premises that are actual reasons why someone might drink coffee, okay? So they don't have to be 100% ironclad perfect, but they have to be reasonable, okay? So let's look at my first one. You all should drink coffee because it's delicious. Is a drink being delicious, is that a reason why someone might drink something?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they might drink something because they enjoy the taste, right? That's reasonable. Doesn't mean that it's the only reason to drink it. It doesn't mean that you'll actually find coffee delicious. It doesn't mean any of that. But is that a logical reason why someone might drink something? Yeah, right? We're probably, if something tastes awful, we're probably not going to drink it, right? Unless it's really good for our health or something. But probably not going to drink it. So is that first one logical? I think it is. I think it's okay. The second premise was, I think you should all drink coffee because it is inexpensive. So is something being inexpensive, is that a reason why someone might drink something? Yeah, I think so. It's not the only variable, right? We don't just drink things because they're cheap, right? Otherwise, we'd just drink water out of the tap all the time. We'd never get a Starbucks coffee or something fancy, right? But yeah, if something's inexpensive, we might choose to drink it for that reason. What'd you get this morning there, Sabrina? Chai tea. If that chai tea cost $40, would you drink it? Probably, yes, why not? Good for you. One time. You probably would drink it a lot less often, right? So if chai tea lattes were $1 from Starbucks, you might have them all the time. If they cost $50 each, maybe never, or maybe less regularly, unless you're loaded, right? Unless you're really, really rich. But so what I'm saying here, though, is that the cost of something is a reason why someone might choose to drink something, right? And so if chai tea lattes were $50 each, you might not drink them at all or very rarely. If they were $1, you might drink them more often, right? Okay, so I think that's I think that's logical. Now the last one I said, you should all drink coffee because it will stimulate your brain and help you study and get better grades. Is that a reason why someone might drink something? Yeah, right? If somebody needs a little energy jolt, or if they feel it might focus them, yeah, they might drink that beverage. So that's logical too. Okay, let me add a premise here. So I had 3 premises. You should all drink coffee because it's delicious and it's inexpensive and it'll help you get better grades and study. And I'm going to add a fourth. Premise. And the beans are grown in Colombia. Does that premise logically support the conclusion?
No.
Is beans being grown in Colombia a reason why somebody might drink this beverage? Maybe, but for the most part, probably not, right? Most of us, who does drink coffee in this room? Okay. Do you care where the beans come from? Not so much, right? Maybe some of you, if you particularly like beans from a particular part of the world, or maybe if you come from Colombia, maybe it's you have some national pride in your coffee. But for most people, it doesn't matter, right? Is it true that coffee beans do come from Colombia? Right. So I have a premise that is actually true, but does it really help my argument? Is it a reason why you would drink this stuff? Not necessarily, right? So our first step is to look at the premises and see if they logically support the conclusion. And I think my first 3 do. That beans grown in Colombia one doesn't. So I'm just going to get rid of it because it doesn't work. Okay. So I have 3 premises that logically support my conclusion. The second thing I'm going to do is, are my premises actually true? Or, if we're not sure if they're true or not, is there a way that I could prove it to you? Is there some evidence that I can give you in order to convince you? So the first one was coffee is delicious. Is that true?
Everyone has a different
Ev-
taste of
Everyone has a different taste. That is true. So it's a little bit of an opinion, personal taste thing. What could I do to, if I really wanted to convince you that coffee was delicious, what could I do?
If you like bitter, or like if you like flavors, or if you're okay with flavors that are a little bit like bitter to you might enjoy it.
Okay, so I could describe the flavor to you a little bit and say it's kind of like this, and if you like that sort of thing, maybe you would enjoy it. Okay, so I could give you some context, right?
You can ask us, like ask the class, and the majority agrees with that. Then some of us might be. Yeah.
Okay, I could do a little survey, right, in the class. I could say who here likes the taste of coffee. Let's see the hands. Who likes the taste of coffee in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've got 18, so that's 6 of 18, so that's about 33.33%, right? Not that great. What if I sent out an email to all Columbia College students and asked them to do a little poll? Might that be a little better? Yeah, this is a small sample size, right? So maybe it might not reflect a larger number of people if I surveyed them. So maybe I do a little survey for the whole college. And so let's say I came back with 75%. So maybe 75% of people say they like the taste of coffee. Does that prove that it's delicious?
No, not entirely.
Not entirely. Is it pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good, right? If we got that kind of result back, we could say that most people think it tastes pretty good. So it's not 100%, but it's okay, right? It's good evidence that this first premise of mine is mostly true. I guess I could also bring my coffee maker in here, right? We could do a little taste test. I could just set it up. I could brew up some coffee for you, and I could give it all to you, and you could try it. I could do that as well. Okay, second premise was that it is inexpensive. Is that true?
No.
No, sometimes.
It depends.
It depends. What does it depend on?
Like Tim Hortons and Starbucks.
Okay, depends on where you buy it, right? What else does it depend on?
How much you earn? So you earn for $5 coffee might be cheap to someone who earns $10 a month, but a $5 coffee is expensive to someone who earns minimum wage.
Right, so how much money you actually have or make has something to do with this as well, right? If you're a millionaire, then the $2 coffee from Tim Hortons is nothing, right? But if you're earning minimum wage, or if you're a homeless person or living below the poverty line, it's a different story, right? That might be an expensive purchase. Okay, so there's a little bit of context there as well. What could I do to prove to you that it is reasonably inexpensive? What? Okay, so it could be homemade. You're right. So that's another variable. How could I prove it to you, though?
You can compare it to another drink which is more expensive.
Okay. Maybe I could collect some evidence. I could collect some data, right? So maybe I'll go to the convenience store and I'll record some prices, or I can go online and do some research. Maybe I can put it in a nice little histogram or a graph, right, that clearly shows how expensive coffee is relative to other drinks. I could make it at home, right? I could sort of do the math and figure out how expensive it is to make it at home. And then maybe with that evidence, I could demonstrate to you that it's reasonably inexpensive, right? Of course, if you are living below the poverty line, or if you have no money at all, of course it's going to be more expensive, right? There's always some context and variability. But could we agree, just based on what we know, that coffee is reasonably inexpensive? Yeah, right? That's not a $50 latte that Sabrina's drinking. It's a few dollars, which is reasonably inexpensive, right? Okay, the last one. The last one was that coffee stimulates your brain and helps you study and get better grades. Is that true?
Yeah, it's scientific proof.
Scientific proof,
But not for everyone?
but not for everyone?
Yeah.
Not for everyone?
Some people can't take like it's too strong for them.
Right, some people,
It's too much caffeine.
yeah, some people, too much caffeine, they get a little jittery and can't sit still and things like that, yeah. So it might be true and it might not. How could I convince you of this?
Like pull some research on the internet and then give it to them.
Sure. This seems like something that scientists would have looked into, right? So I could dig through some journals, I could do some research, and maybe I could present you with some papers that say, look, people, they've done studies, they've given some people coffee and some people no coffee, and then they had them take an exam, and maybe the people that drank coffee did better. I don't know if they did or not. I haven't read the studies, but
I read it.
you read it?
Yeah, like in the short term, like the one who drink coffee perform better, but in the long term, the one who doesn't drink perform better.
Oh, interesting.
Could they give coffee to the smarter people?
Right. What if they give coffee to the smarter people? What if smarter people just happen to drink coffee? No. So there is some research out there, right? And so there might be some difference in long term and short term, but hopefully I could produce evidence to suggest that coffee actually does help you study and get better grades. So here I have an argument, right? And my argument was, you should all drink coffee because it's delicious and inexpensive and it helps you study and get better grades. And I think we've agreed that those all logically support my conclusion. They're all reasons why someone might drink coffee. And I think we could agree that those premises are mostly true, or that if I did some digging, I could probably present some evidence so that you could believe that they're true. Okay? So do I have a good argument here? Not bad?
Not strong.
Not as strong as it could be? Okay, so Sabrina is Sabrina is agreeing that this is an okay argument that I've constructed, but it's not as strong as it could be. So what's missing? Right, I have not provided you with any evidence. Let's pretend I did though. So let's pretend I did the digging, I did the work, and I presented it to you and everything is as I've described basically. Should you believe me? Should you all go home and immediately start chugging coffee?
Actually, can we like not say you should all drink coffee and we say you might love to drink coffee?
You might like to?
Yeah, because should is like we need to, right?
Yeah, and so that is true. So you could modify it a little bit. Usually, if you want to make a strong argument, you should make a very clear statement, right? And so, you might be more used to being diplomatic and saying, you might enjoy coffee if you enjoy these things or if you want these things. And that's a bit of a softer argument. And so it depends how strongly you want to convince the other person. And so if I really want to convince you, I might say, you should, or you must, or it is in your best interest to do this. If you want it to be a softer sell, then you could say, yes, you might enjoy this if you like these things or if you want these things. So depends how forceful you want to be. Yeah, either way works though. Vera.
And what's the other side of the argument? Downsides of drinking coffee?
Oh, okay. So there's another side to this argument. I've neglected certain things. What do you think I've neglected?
Addiction.
Oh, okay. So I didn't talk at all about the fact that caffeine can be addictive, right? What else have I missed?
Negative effects.
Negative effects?
Yeah, the negative effects of like people at a really young age starting to drink coffee and then if you're not strong enough.
Right. I've said nothing. Maybe this is the long-term thing that Keng was talking about. What are the health effects of drinking coffee, particularly for people whose brains are still developing and still wiring up? Is caffeine a good thing to feed a young brain, or is it not? I didn't say anything about that, right? I didn't say anything about health or brain development or the addictive potential of this substance. I didn't say anything about that, right? What else? What else did I not talk about? What's missing? I know some people are very worried about the color of their teeth, right? And so coffee can stain your teeth and make them less white. Excuse me. So that might be a sticking point for you as well, right? I haven't said anything about your appearance and the color of your teeth, and you might not like to have your teeth not be white. Maybe you're too well, you definitely need a cup of coffee if you're too lazy to actually go and get the coffee. Yeah, maybe you're just not interested in doing all that work, right? You're not interested in going to a store to get coffee. You're not interested in buying a coffee maker and doing all that stuff. Maybe you're just not interested. So I do have a good argument here, right? It's logical. It has logically supported premises, and the premises are mostly true. But again, it's not a complete argument. I haven't addressed the other side of this substance, which there are negatives, right? Might be some teeth staining, there might be some addictive potential, there might be some health effects that I haven't told you about. So is this an okay argument? Still okay, right? But again, there's things that I could address, and you could definitely, if I was trying to convince you of this and this was a debate or a conversation, it would be a good idea for you to say, well, Mike, that's, you've made a good argument there, but what do you say to, the potential health effects of young people consuming caffeine? What's your response to that? And so if I still want you to believe my argument, I'm going to have to address that, right? I'm going to have to find some evidence that says, oh, actually, caffeine is fine for growing brains, or I might say, oh, the science is inconclusive at the moment, or I might be forced to admit that, well, maybe it's not so good for developing brains. Maybe coffee is delicious and you should all drink it, but maybe only once you're 18. So I might have to actually change my argument if you catch me, right? If you poke a hole in my argument, I might actually have to change my argument in order to have it remain valid, right? Okay, this is good. So that was my argument, and I think it's logical and it's reasonably valid. You could certainly attack my argument, and that's good because, yeah, that's what you should be thinking. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, I want to give you some time to create some arguments of your own, okay? Very, very simple ones about anything. I've just picked coffee. You can choose anything you want, but we'll deal with that when we get back. First, take a 10-minute break, and then we'll create arguments of our own, okay? All right. Okay, ready, shreddies? Ready, ready, ready? Almost everyone is back. Okay, so what did I do? I had this for you here. So I created a very simple argument, which is not on the screen. I created a very simple argument for you. Again, it's not the world's best argument. It's not foolproof or ironclad or indisputable, but it's okay and it's good enough for our purposes. And so what I would like you to do is do the same thing. I'd like you to come up with your own argument that has a conclusion, something that we should believe, and that has maybe 2 or 3 premises, 2 or 3 kind of supporting reasons. The argument can be on anything you want it to be. It doesn't matter what it is. I would just like it to, hopefully, have premises that logically support the conclusion and have premises that are either true or that, we could probably prove as true. There's a way to prove them as true, okay? So what I'll do is I'll give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, come on. I'll give you 5, they're very simple. I'll give you 5 minutes, and online people, you can do this as well. 5 minutes to come up with your own argument. You can talk to people around you if you want to, if that's helpful for you to figure something out. And then after 5 minutes, I'll ask you to share some of those, and then we can talk about, if they're reasonable arguments or not, okay? So take 5, come up with a very simple argument of your own, and then I'll check back with you and we'll see what we come up with, okay? Online people, same thing, and online people, you can post your arguments in Microsoft Teams, okay? Okay. Oh boy. PR. Good. Spelling out loud is like, I cannot do it.
Spelling bee now.
Spelling bee now.
one more minute? 90 more seconds? Something like that? Okay, so here we go. I'm curious to hear some interesting random arguments. I'm going to start off with a few of our online students here who have submitted some. So Gabrielle has one, and here's her argument, okay? Her argument is that everyone should wear a mask when they are outside, okay? So that's Gabrielle's conclusion. That's the thing that she wants us to believe or wants us to do. And so as good critical thinkers, we should say, well, Gabrielle, why should we do that? Why should we wear a mask outside? And so Gabrielle has 3 premises. She says, number 1, it stops the spread of germs from person to person. Second, the masks are relatively inexpensive. And 3, it means it's okay if you forgot to brush your teeth before leaving the house. Okay. Simple argument, you should wear a mask when outside. Why should we believe that? Well, it stops the spread of germs from person to person. So is that logical? Is that a reason why someone might wear a mask? Yeah. Masks are inexpensive. Is that a reason why someone might wear a mask? Yeah. Or if masks were super expensive, then people might not wear them, right? If you wear a mask, will it kind of keep people from noticing that you didn't brush your teeth this morning? Yeah, logical reason why someone might wear a mask? Maybe?
Save money on lipstick.
Or save money on lipstick, right? Either of those will work. So are those all logical support for Gabrielle's conclusion that you should wear a mask outside? Are they all true? Does wearing a mask help reduce the spread of germs from person to person? Yeah. Are masks inexpensive?
Depending.
Reasonably.
Now it's not inexpensive, it's expensive.
Yeah. Again, expensive is a relative thing, right? If you have no money, then everything is expensive. Does it hide the fact that is it true that a mask hides the fact that you didn't brush your teeth? Or if you wear a mask, then you don't have to wear lipstick? Are those things true? Yeah, those are pretty true. So is this a good, logical, valid argument? Yeah, it's okay, right? It doesn't have to be foolproof and ironclad. It just has to be a properly constructed argument, which it is, right? Let's take one from the studio audience here. Yeah, sure.
If you can, you should ride a bicycle instead of your car because it helps prevent the air pollution if you do every day.
Okay.
And it helps to exercise and stay healthy unless you have any health condition. And because during rush hours, it may help you reach the destination faster.
Oh, okay. There we go. So Anna's conclusion is that you should ride a bike rather than drive your car. Good critical thinkers, we should ask Anna, why should we do that? And she says, well, what was the first one?
Preventing the air pollution.
Right. It limits air pollution, right? Is that a reason why someone might ride a bike? Is it true that bicycles help limit air pollution? Yeah, okay. Second premise was that it's actually good for your health.
Exercising and staying healthy.
Yeah, it's exercise. It's good for your health. Is that a reason why someone might ride a bike?
Yeah.
Is it true?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, right? And the third one?
During rush hours, it may help you reach the destination faster.
Right. During rush hour, it might help you reach your destination faster. Is that a reason why someone might ride a bike? I think so. If they could get there faster on a bike, they might ride a bike. Is it true? It might depend, right? But in some cases, it might very well be true, right? Traffic can back up, nobody's moving anywhere, and you can just ride right on by. So does Anna have a good argument here? Yeah, that's not bad, right? All the premises logically support its conclusion. All those premises are either true or, might be true in some contexts, right? Depending on how traffic is. I think that's good, right? I'm going to go back here. Daniel from online has an argument about Trump, and he says both Trump and I guess neither Trump nor Biden are good candidates for this election. Okay, that is what Daniel wants us to believe, and so we're going to not jump to any conclusions here. We're going to say, okay, Daniel, why should we believe that? And Daniel's going to say, well, Daniel's going to say Trump is ethically retarded. I'm going to change Daniel's wording and say that he is ethically challenged, okay, or compromised, or that he has no ethics at all. Okay, so that's one premise. Is that a reason? Is Trump not having any ethics? Is that a reason why he might be a bad candidate? Yes. Is it true? Arguably true, but I think most people would agree with that. Okay, the second one. Daniel says Biden is politically dumb. Okay, so politically speaking, he's not very good. Is that a reason that would make him a bad candidate for election? If he was not very politically savvy? That would probably make him not a great candidate, right? Is it true?
No,
Is he politically dumb?
I don't think so.
We don't know that.
Kang doesn't think that. Anna's not sure.
Depends on what point of view you're looking at.
Depends on the point of view. Could Daniel provide us with some evidence to support that? Okay, so he could make a case. He'd almost have to make a little separate argument, just that, right? Because that seems to be a bit of Trump being, ethically challenged. That seems to be reasonably well accepted. Whether Biden is a politically savvy candidate, that seems to be a little more contentious. But Daniel could provide some evidence to that.
I think the first one, it depends on like who you're talking to, because if you're talking to a bunch of Republicans, they might think other.
Definitely, right? And so, and this will be the case, I think, is that the more complex the argument is, or the thing that you're debating, the more complex it is, the more things are going to be true, depending on the perspective you're looking at. And so it makes the arguments more complicated, which again is okay, and that's just kind of the way many things are. Many things are complicated to debate and to discuss. But yeah, this is one that is like that, right? Whether Biden is politically savvy or not requires some more discussion. It's not apparently true to all or false to all, right? Okay, and his third premise, Daniel's third premise, Trump and Biden, they're both of their favorable ratings are below 50%. So in the United States, less than half of the people support both of those candidates. Nobody is supported by a majority of Americans. Does that make them bad candidates?
It shows something.
Does show something, right? Neither one is favored by the majority.
But it's hard to be favored by the majority if there are more than
It is. It definitely is. This is a more complicated one as well, right? So for the presidency in the U.S., there's only two candidates, and so you would hope that somebody would have an approval rating of more than 50. As it turns out, neither of them are. but you've pointed out a good thing there, Avera. Where you have more candidates, then the odds of someone having 50% are quite low. And so I think with our last election for the federal election in Canada, the Liberals kind of won the election and Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister. But I think they had 37% of the vote or 34%. So they didn't really have a majority, but we have more than two parties, right? And so our votes are going to be split, and so even the person who takes power might have a real minority of the votes, which is sometimes what happens with a democracy. But anyway, what do you think of Daniel's argument here? Is it not bad? Yeah, there's probably some things that we might need a little more evidence for, right? Some things are not obviously true, but Daniel could provide some more evidence and try to convince us. Okay, back to our studio audience here.
Okay, so we should all exercise.
We should all exercise. That's your conclusion. That's what you want us to believe. Why? Why, Kang, should we all exercise?
First of all, exercising helps us improve our mental and physical health.
Okay, exercise is good for your mental and physical health. Okay.
The second reason is exercising helps us lose weight.
Okay, exercising can help you lose weight.
And lastly, exercising helps teenagers increase growth hormone.
Okay. Can it?
And men over 30 regain their testosterone.
Okay. Okay, this is good. This is a good one. So Kang's argument is that we should exercise because we should all exercise, right? And so you have a few. It's good for your mental and physical health. The second one was
Help us lose weight.
it helps you lose weight, and the third one was it's good for growth hormone and testosterone in young people or in men over 30, respectively. Okay, this is all good. I might change it a little bit because all of your premises are kind of about health. And so I would take the healthy part and I would put it into your conclusion. And so I would say we should all, exercising is good for all of our health, right? Or our overall health. Why should we believe that? Well, first of all, exercise is good for your mental health, which we have evidence for. Exercising can help you to lose weight, which is also good for your health if you happen to be overweight. And third, it helps with growth hormone for young people and testosterone for men over 30. So I might move a couple of things around, but I think it's good. Are those premises all logical reasons why somebody might exercise? Yeah, it's good for mental health. You might want to lose weight. You might need some growth hormone or testosterone. Those are all reasons why someone might exercise.
But if you want to lose weight, you also have to take a healthy diet.
Right, so there's more pieces to that argument, but that's okay. That's okay. Are they all true? Right, we might need some more science. I don't think all of us know about the science of growth hormone and testosterone production in men at over 30. I don't think all of us know that instinctively, but you could do some research, right? You could,
Provide evidence.
yes, you could give us that evidence and help convince us. There's also science about weight loss and exercise that you could provide us if we didn't know about that. And you could provide us with the evidence about the benefits of exercise for mental health, right? So I think that's a good logical argument. All the premises support the conclusion, and you could do some digging and find evidence that it's true. And actually, I think Vicky here has a similar argument, actually. She says everyone should do sports. Everyone should engage in sports. And why should we believe that? She says, well, it helps improve mental health. She says that it helps improve self-confidence, which I think is okay. And it's a good way to meet new friends, right? It's a social activity. So that's a good one as well, right? Those are all easily understandable as true, and they're all reasons why someone might want to play sports, right? To meet friends, to increase their self-confidence, and to improve their mental and even their physical health at the same time. Okay, give me one more.
I have one, but I think you've heard it like 1,000 times.
I've heard it 1,000 times. Okay, let's 1,001.
Students should be able to have the choice to use free clothes in school.
Students should have to what?
To use free clothes, like that, they can have a choice to use free clothes.
To use free clothes?
Like no uniform.
Oh, no uniform. Okay. Okay, so so Sabrina's argument here, the conclusion of her argument is that students should be able to choose what they wear to school, not wear uniforms. Okay? Why should we believe that?
Because it allows them to express themselves and kind of like see what, like just kind of express themselves in general. And
Okay.
not feel kind of, how do you say that, like restricted in the way they like show themselves to the world.
Okay, so the clothes that a student, well, anyone, the clothes that we wear help us express our identity to the world, and so choosing what you wear at school is a way to express who you are, and you won't feel so restricted. Okay.
And then it helps like, to kind of give an idea to other students that like their outfits might not match with our personal preference, but like at the same time we should learn to respect each other and the differences that people might have.
Okay, so it is a way in which we can learn to respect the differences of others, right, and to accept people for being different, right? We're not all the same, and we need to, we need to be able to accept that, and clothing choice is one way in which we can do that. Okay.
And then other students might not be able to buy the school uniform like from head to toe, and that might be a challenge for them to fit in maybe in school.
Sure. So school uniforms, this is another relative thing, but school uniforms can be expensive, right? And so for some people and in some places, that uniform can actually be a barrier to either being in the school in the first place or kind of being accepted socially, right? If they don't have the full uniform, or if they're not able to afford all the pieces or whatever, then yeah, that can be a barrier to their education, right? Sorry, my little tickle. Okay, so students should be able to wear their own clothes. They should be able to choose what they wear to school. That's our conclusion. The first premise was?
It helps them to express themselves.
Helps them to express themselves. Good. Is that a reason why someone might want to choose their own clothes?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it true?
Yes.
Yeah. Second one was that it has to do with social acceptance of diversity, right? Yeah. Is that true? Is that a reason why somebody might want to wear their own clothes?
Yeah.
To help sort of, yeah, okay. Is it true?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's true enough. And the third reason, uniforms might be costly to some people, and so it might be a barrier to them participating in education or being socially accepted. Is that true? Not for everybody, but certainly for some people. And is it a reason why maybe we shouldn't wear uniforms if it's a barrier? Yeah, okay. You guys have got it. That's really good. Those are all really good premises. And so what I want to encourage you to do, not just in this class, but other classes too, is to, when you have to answer a question, try to create a little argument like that. That took us just a few minutes, right? Most of you were done in less than 5 minutes. And so that can really help your answer if if a teacher asks you sort of an open-ended question, take a minute and say, okay, what am I trying to answer? What's my conclusion? And what are my reasons, right? What are my premises? And that's going to make your answers stronger, but it can also make your papers stronger. Like my little coffee argument here, which I'm going to put back up on the screen. Where's the button? There. My little coffee argument here. It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty Mickey Mouse, but I can write a whole paper out of this, right? I can very easily and maybe I'll do it a little bit later in the term, but I can create an outline from this little thing, and I could write a whole paper on it very easily. It probably wouldn't be the most interesting paper that's ever been written, but I could do it, right? I could very easily map out what I need to do. I could very easily map out what kind of things I might want to talk about in each paragraph, and then all I have to do is kind of do the research and write it. And so if you can start here, I think it's very helpful for answers that you might need to write, longer answers on exams for other classes. And if you're writing a paper, again, this is a great starting point. If you can just get a rough argument of what you want to say, then that can help you move forward. I think a lot of students sometimes, they read a bunch of stuff and then they just start writing, and then you wind up with, just kind of a jumble of information, and you're not really sure where to go with it. But if you can create something like this, it's a little map, right? You'll know what to write and you'll know what you need to include. But we can get to that a little bit later. So let's see. Do you have any questions at the moment? No? Okay. Let me just check here. I think everyone, okay. So tomorrow what we'll do is I think we'll start talking about culture and socialization, okay? And so this is a bit of a anthropology / sociology topic, but it's going to be very important for the course going forward, because what we'll find out is that when we're talking about social justice, when we're talking about prejudices and stereotypes and people's behavior, all of those are very strongly connected to culture and socialization, and so we'll need to know how those things work in order to better understand how sexism works or how racism works later on. So that's what we'll start tomorrow. We'll start examining culture and socialization. But until then, I think I don't have anything else for you today, so I think I might let you go if that's okay. Is that okay? A little bit. Okay, so that's all I have for you. Have a nice rest of the morning and afternoon. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you tomorrow. Online people, good work. Thank you for being here. I'll see you tomorrow too, okay? So, bye.